Hello again, my friends. Hello again, my friends. This video is part 3 in what is going to be probably a long series of videos, okay, that I'm going to call Les leo un libro en inglés. This book is called The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime, okay? This is part 3. Check down below in the description to check out parts 1 and 2 if you have not already watched those, okay? So I'm going to keep on going with this because some of you guys have told me that you liked it. Juan, Alex, and Miguel have all asked me to keep on going, so I will keep going for you guys. I know that some of this vocabulary could be a bit tricky, but like Alex told me in a comment earlier, if it's challenging, it means you're learning, okay? And I also want to mention that on the Patreon, I'm starting to make advanced content. So if you are interested in more challenges, check out the Patreon down below. I'll put a link in the description. Here we go. It was 1:12 a.m. when Father arrived at the police station. I did not see him until 1:28 a.m., but I knew he was there because I could hear him. He was shouting, "Ah!" He was shouting, "I want to see my son, and why the hell is he locked up? Of course I'm bloody angry." Then I heard a policeman telling him to calm down. Then I heard nothing for a long while. At 1:28 a.m., a policeman opened the door of the cell and told me that there was someone to see me. I stepped outside. Father was standing in the corridor. He held up his right hand and spread his fingers out in a fan. I held up my left hand and spread my fingers out in a fan, and we made our fingers and thumbs touch each other. We do this because sometimes Father wants to give me a hug, but I do not like hugging people, so we do this instead, and it means that he loves me. Okay guys, just a quick little note is that, as I've said, the main character in this book, Christopher, he's autistic, okay? And a lot of autistic people do not like to be touched, okay? So it's pretty interesting. This is really giving us a view inside the brain of an autistic kid, okay? Pretty interesting. Then the policeman told us to follow him down the corridor to another room. In that room was a table and 3 chairs. He told us to sit down on the far side of the table, and he sat down on the other side. There was a tape recorder on the table, and I asked whether I was going to be interviewed, and he was going to record the interview. He said, "I don't think there will be any need for that." He was an inspector. I could tell because he was not wearing a uniform. He also had a very hairy nose. It looked as if there were 2 very small mice hiding in his nostrils. He said, "I have spoken to your father, and he says that you did not mean to hit the policeman." I didn't say anything because this wasn't a question. He said, "Did you mean to hit the policeman?" I said, "Yep." He squeezed his face and said, "But you did not mean to hurt the policeman." I thought about this, and I said, "No, I didn't mean to hurt the policeman. I just wanted him to stop touching me." Then he said, "You know that it is wrong to hit a policeman, don't you?" I said, "I do." He was quiet for a few seconds. Then he asked, "Did you kill the dog, Christopher?" I said, "I did not kill the dog." He said, "Do you know that it is wrong to lie to a policeman and that you can get into a very great deal of trouble if you do?" I said, "Yes." He said, "So do you know who killed the dog?" I said, "No." He said, "Are you telling the truth?" I said, "Yes, I always tell the truth." And he said, "Right, I'm going to give you a caution." I asked, "Is that going to be on a piece of paper, like a certificate that I can keep?" He replied, "No. A caution means that we are going to keep a record of what you did, that you hit a policeman, but that it was an accident, and that you did not mean to hurt the policeman." I said, "But it wasn't an accident." And Father said, "Christopher, please." The policeman closed his mouth and breathed out loudly through his nose and said, "If you get into any more trouble, we will take out this record and see that you have been given a caution, and we will take things much more seriously. Do you understand what I am saying?" I said that I understood. Then he said that we could go, and he stood up and opened the door and we walked out into the corridor and backed into the front desk, where I picked up my Swiss Army knife and my piece of string and the piece of the wooden puzzle and the 3 pellets of rat food for Toby, my pet rat, and my $1.47, and the paperclip and my front door key, which were all in a plastic bag. And we went out to Father's car, which was parked outside, and we drove home. I do not tell lies. Mother used to say that this was because I was a good person, but it is not because I'm a good person. It is because I cannot tell lies. Mother was a small person who smelled nice, and she sometimes wore a fleece with a zip down the front, which was pink, and had a tiny label which said Berghaus on the left bosom. Berghaus, guys, don't worry about that word. I think it's German. A lie is when you say something happened which did not happen, but there is only ever one thing which happened at a particular time and a particular place, and there are an infinite number of things which did not happen at that time and that place. And if I think about something which didn't happen, I start thinking about all of the other things which didn't happen. For example, this morning for breakfast, I had Ready Breck and some hot raspberry milkshake. But if I say that I actually had Shreddies and a mug of tea, I start thinking about Cocoa Pops and lemonade and porridge and Dr. Pepper and how I wasn't eating my breakfast in Egypt, and there wasn't a rhinoceros in the room, and Father wasn't wearing a diving suit, and so on, and even writing this makes me feel shaky and scared, like I do when I'm standing on the top of a very tall building, and there are thousands of houses and cars and people below me, and my head is so full of these things that I am afraid that I'm going to forget to stand up straight and hang on to the rail, and I'm going to fall over and be killed. This is another reason why I don't like proper novels, because they are lies about things which didn't happen, and they make me feel shaky and scared. And this is why everything I have written here is true. There were clouds in the sky on the way home, so I could not see the Milky Way. I said, I'm sorry, because Father had to come to the police station, which was a bad thing. He said, it's okay. I said, I didn't kill the dog. And he said, I know. Then he said, Christopher, you have to stay out of trouble, okay? I said, I didn't know I was going to get in trouble. I like Wellington, and I went to say hello to him, but I did not know that somebody had killed him. Father said, just try and keep your nose out of other people's business, okay? When we say keep your nose out of other people's business, that means no seas chismoso. I thought for a little, and I said, I'm going to find out who killed Wellington. And Father said, were you listening to what I was saying, Christopher? I said, yes. I was listening to what you were saying, but when someone gets murdered, you have to find out who did it so that they can be punished. And he said, it's a bloody dog, Christopher, a bloody dog. And I replied, I think dogs are important too. He said, leave it. And I said, I wonder if the police will find out who killed him and punish the person. Then Father banged the steering wheel with his fist, and the car weaved a little bit across the dotted line in the middle of the road, and he shouted, I said, leave it, for God's sake. I could tell that he was angry because he was shouting. I didn't want to make him angry, so I didn't say anything else until we got home. When he came in through the front door, I went into the kitchen and got a carrot for Toby. And I went upstairs and I shut the door to my room and I let Toby out and I gave him the carrot. Then I turned my computer on and played 76 games of Minesweeper and did the expert version in 102 seconds, which was only 3 seconds off my best time, which was 99 seconds. At 2:07 a.m., I decided that I wanted a drink of orange squash before I brushed my teeth and got into bed. Guys, I think this book takes place in England, okay? So he says orange squash. We would never say that here, okay? We say orange juice, okay? Jugo de naranja. I would say orange juice, but this is in Britain or England, so he's saying orange squash, and some of the words that he's using for food sound a little weird, but that's because I believe he's British. So, Father was sitting on the sofa, watching snooker on the television and drinking scotch. There were tears coming out of his eyes. I asked, "Are you sad about Wellington?" He looked at me for a long time and sucked air in through his nose. Then he said, "Yes, Christopher, you could say that. You could very well say that." I decided to leave him alone because when I am sad, I want to be left alone. So I didn't say anything else. I just went into the kitchen and made my orange squash and took it back upstairs to my room. Mother died 2 years ago. I came home from school one day and no one answered the door, so I went and found the secret key that we keep under a flower pot behind the kitchen door. I let myself into the house and carried on making the Airfix Sherman tank model I was building. An hour and a half later, Father came home from work. He runs a business and he does heating maintenance and boiler repair with a man called Rodri, who is his employee. He knocked on the door of my room and opened it and asked if I had seen Mother. I said that I hadn't seen her, and he went downstairs and started making some phone calls. I did not hear what he said. Then he came up to my room and said he had to go out for a while and he wasn't sure how long he would be. He said that if I needed anything, I should call him on his mobile phone. He was away for 2.5 hours. When he came back, I went downstairs. He was sitting in the kitchen, staring out the back window, down the garden to the pond, and the corrugated iron fence, and the top of the tower of the church on Manstead Street, which looks like a castle because it is Norman. Father said, "I'm afraid you won't be seeing your mother for a while." He didn't look at me when he said this. He kept on looking through the window. Usually, people look at you when they're talking to you. I know that they're working out what I'm thinking, but I can't tell what they're thinking. It's like being in a room with a one-way mirror and a spy film. But this was nice, having Father speak to me, but not look at me. I said, "Why not?" He waited for a very long time, and then he said, "Your mother has had to go into the hospital." "Can we visit her?" I asked, because I like hospitals. I like the uniforms and the machines. Father said no. I said, "Why can't we?" And he said, "She needs rest. She needs to be on her own." I asked, "Is this a psychiatric hospital?" Father said, "No, it's an ordinary hospital. She has a problem with her heart." I said, "We will need to take food to her, because I know that food in a hospital is not very good." David from school, he went into hospital to have an operation on his leg to make his calf muscle longer so that he could walk better, and he hated the food, so his mother used to take meals in every day. Father waited for a long time again and said, "I'll take some into her during the day when you're at school, and I'll give it to the doctors and they can give it to your mom, okay?" And I just want to show you guys. Here it says mum. Mum. That's what they say in England, okay? British English, they call their mothers mum. We say mom. I said, "But you can't cook." Father put his hands over his face and said, "Christopher, look. I'll buy some ready-made stuff from the Marks and Spencers and take those in. She likes those." I said I would make her a get well card, because that is what you do for people when they are in the hospital. Father said he would take it to her the next day. In the bus on the way to school the next morning, we passed 4 red cars in a row, which meant that it was a good day, so I decided not to be sad about Wellington. Mr. Jevons, the psychologist at the school, once asked me why 4 red cars in a row make it a good day, and 3 red cars in a row make it a quite good day, and 5 red cars in a row made it a super good day, and why 4 yellow cars in a row make it a black day, which is a day when I don't speak to anyone and sit on my own reading books, and I don't eat my lunch, and I take no risk. He said that I was clearly a very logical person, so he was surprised that I should think like this because it was not very logical. I said that I like things to be in nice order, and one way of things being in a nice order was to be logical, especially if those things were numbers or an argument. But there were other ways of putting things in a nice order, and that was why I had good days and black days, and I said that some people who worked in an office came out of their house in the morning and saw the sun was shining, and it made them feel happy. Or they saw it was raining and it made them feel sad. But the only difference was the weather, and if they worked in an office, the weather didn't have to do with anything they had, a good day or a bad day. I said that when Father got up this morning, he always put his trousers on before he puts his socks on, and it was not logical, but he always did it that way because he liked things in a nice order too. Also, whenever he went upstairs, he went up 2 at a time, always starting with his right foot. Mr. Jeevens said that I was a very clever boy. Alright guys, we'll end it there for today. I hope you guys got some good, challenging English input. Hope you guys are enjoying this book. I'm enjoying reading it. It's a pretty interesting look into the mind of somebody who thinks quite differently. Okay? I think it's interesting. Alright guys, como siempre, muchísimas gracias por ver. Nos vemos pronto.